The Right Honourable Winston Peters.
This marks the first address in the House for this year, being election year, and after 2 years in government, of our trying to turn the mess around that we were left with by the previous government. Now, we then watched the Labor and Green leaders of that party rise to their feet, and there we were thinking to ourselves, this will be a time for focus, for imagination, for visionary experiences that evince confidence when the public hears it, where the public thinks to themselves, these people know what they're talking about because they've actually been there before, they understand how business works and how society works. And it's a moment for great inspiration. And you stand back and you say to yourself, thank heavens we're in politics. So this is inspiring in the extreme. Unfortunately, that didn't happen today. It was in fact depressing, extraordinarily depressing today. And it reminded me of, particularly when they both finished their speeches, of a singing group called Status Quo, who had a song that went like this: whatever you want, whatever you like, you pay your money, you make your choice, whatever you need. And over again, that's what they said. No explanation of their appalling management of the economy when they were all by themselves. The fact that they ran the second most rigid COVID response all by themselves, and we're still recovering from it. Large part of institutions in this country are still recovering from the second most rigid application of the COVID rules of any country on earth. And they think they can walk away and say, because we left you with these massive debts, that somehow in the next 24 months you should have turned it all around. That's how numb they are of the facts. There are a few people there that know how to run the school tuck shop. It shows in the way they speak. And if you deny that, put your hand up and tell me you are. What's your record of making money? Private money, where you put it all on the line yourself. Hands up, come on, tell me. What's your experience? Not a murmur, not a mutter, not a syllable, not a sound. And out there, you people who are voting, when you're watching, ask yourself this: well, if that's their record, how will they handle your money? And that's the critical thing we have to be concerned about. New Zealand First has played an integral part in this government. It's not been easy because there have been massively serious inherited problems in so many areas. And we did that on the back of a huge pandemic that we had to get on top of, having paid the price for rash decisions and lockdowns that didn't work. That's the record analysis of the rest of the world. So why aren't we saying it at our time in history right now? There have been a number of major achievements, though, that we've made over the past 2 years, and there are many more to come over the next 12 months. Can I just mention some things that we are dealing with as a political party? We've got, for example, Shane Jones and his portfolios, where he's got a marvellous record, second to none, in being a can-do minister. That's right. That is not talking, getting out there and do things over and over and over again. And all of a sudden in the debate today, we realise we've had some climactic disasters. And they're starting to look back and say, well, who spent what, where and when? Oh, they're not saying that the Provincial Growth Fund was a waste of money anymore, are they? No. And all of a sudden they're saying that might have been a brilliant idea. In fact, it's a brilliant idea. Can you help us going forward? Well, we'd like to say, well, if you had 3 times the money, we'd do 3 times as much.
That's right.
But that's for after the next election.
I need my defence. Don't you take my defence.
Well, we're a very proud Minister of Defence in our support for defence, because we understand the need when we're out in the real world to walk amongst people who don't look over our shoulder and think we're all bulldust, who look over our shoulder and say, you're worth listening to because you're part of the solution. You're not part of the problem. That's the difference. And I'm having this marvellous at the moment now, you give me the deviation at the moment, to have some 4 ministers of foreign affairs and others banging on about what we should have said with respect, for example, Afghanistan. Afghanistan was a case where we were there, but we may have been associated with NATO, but we weren't part of NATO. And if we were to respond, then the Minister for Defence was the right one to respond. That's what a methodical, organised government looks like. And she did. Why? She did so much that it was in yesterday's Herald editorial. On the very day that he was opening his mouth and let the wind blowing his tongue around, right? On the very day he was saying this is in the New Zealand Herald. But out there in the mainstream media, where they say, Mr. Gough, excuse me, don't you not know that? Do you not know we've got a Minister of Defence? There was her job to do the job as the Prime Minister recognised and as I recognised. And there he is, though, bang on his away, Mr Goff. And my question to Mr Goff is, how do you think Hipkins feels? He's meant to be the leader of the Labour Party. We know he's not, of course, but how do you think he feels? Or if you're the Foreign Affairs spokesperson, how do you feel when he's banging on about those issues? Or if you like, as the spokesman for health, how does she feel? And my question to the mainstream media is, why don't you get off your broad half-acre and ask them? How do they feel? Because that's what real politics is about. But back to the other achievements.
More.
Well, sometimes, you've got to think, here we are in 2026, you think, we'll surely have made progress in politics because we've got all these new utilities. We've even got AI now. But no, the game's got worse. The polls are unreadable. They're unimaginable. They're all over the place. There's gaps of 14% sometimes in the polls, and no one's saying to each other, this is not good for a first world democracy. Let's sort things out. But the point really is we've taken serious portfolios, and my colleagues have done a great job, portfolio after portfolio and spokesperson after spokesperson. And the reality is that New Zealanders out there are beginning to understand that. But in just 1 year, we sorted out the previous government's $4.2 billion farce when it came to the Cook Strait ferries. Right. They were charged with going out and spending $401 million and buying 2 ferries. Now, the man from Palmerston North over there, who's now looking away in shame, he's been the spokesperson, been taking me on, and I'm here to give him an answer today. They were charged by me in May of 2020 to buy 2 ferries for $401 million.
Yeah.
Now, guess what I inherited? They were buying 2 ferries, all right, but the cost of the ferries was less than 20% of the total cost because they went and bought 2 massive big ferries and they had no infrastructure. So 80% cost was going to be blown on the infrastructure, which would have taken 5 or 6 years to build for ferries that size. That's right. That's what I inherited. And now my question is to the mainstream media and half the darn unionists in this country is, can't you understand economic facts? We're going to save you $2.3 billion at least already. Maybe more actually. Maybe more. I've got some good news for you. I've been to China to the shipyard and their enthusiasm knows no bounds. And I think we're going to be early with the arrival of these ships and our job is to get their infrastructure ready. We're going to surprise you. Guess why? Because this party's backed by people of experience. This is not our first shipbuilding exercise. In fact, Judith Collins will tell you, we're out there buying ships, buying planes, ordering these things. Unlike these amateur people who'd come and step up to do the job, and no one says to themselves, how will they go when they face all these civil servants who've been around 10, 20, 30 years? Will they be walked all over? Well, of course they get walked all over. And that's why they make these dramatic, terrible mistakes. You've got a man called Rennie coming in to Parliament. He's going to be your new superstar. He was Graham Robinson's economic advisor. He was Graham Robinson's economic advisor. He had a code word was B and H. And it's not B for, what you think what B might be, but it should have been. But it was borrow and hope. That's all he had to offer. I know I was there, staggered by things when I saw the economic plans being laid out, because they had no idea where it was all going and what in time it will all cost. Or worse still, they had no idea that expenditure in these days has got to be about something that will last 30, 40 or 50 years, whether it's infrastructure or whether it's people. We educate young people to be great citizens and productive earners for the country. We make sure our health system understands that so they can be productive for the country. And we make sure all people get a fair go and live longer and work longer because they have been great for the country. But we have a system of understanding on this side of the House, and it's based on real politics, not dreaming theory out of Massey University.
Common room.
We don't want the sociological claptrap running our country. Most of those people can't even turn the toaster around in the toaster properly. Well, rail was woefully mismanaged, but things are back on track. We've even ensured that rail made a serious profit last year. And the railways are back on track, heaving logs, dairy, grain, cement, and yes, Shane Jones, coal. Ever heard of GDP? Ever heard of jobs? Well, that's what we're about. You're looking at a party of realpolitik. You like that?
Reality.
Not light rail labour, tradies on push bike greens, and hikoi kakoi show ponies in the Murray party. No, we're talking about real transport. And this year you'll see major advances after years of hard work. The Auckland City Rail Link will, hallelujah everybody, it's going to open. No? Before the general election. And years of work to ready our largest population centre for a better public transport system will finally pay off. And on Thursday, the line reopens after, that's this Thursday, the line reopens after the last many weeks' long closure because we've been out rebuilding the best part of the network from the ground up. And 66 new freight locomotives, I'm going to say this real slowly, 66 new freight locomotives will arrive from Spain, replacing the entire South Island fleet of almost 50-year-old locos. That's locomotives, not Labour Party supporters. and some of the poor-performing locomotives in the North Island. And freight keeping on schedule is everything, and reliable assets like this will boost KiwiRail's performance. We don't dream up utopia in puffs of smoke. We talk to the workers, the unions, the freighters, the commuters, and get the infrastructure built. What we're building will be around 50 to 100 years from now. We're taking up where Vogel left off, with the same sense of inspiration. He built in 10 years more than the next 130 years. And he did it with horse and carts. Now, we've got more advanced than that, but we're getting back to make sure that we've got a great alternative in transport in this country, because as the main freight head said to me one day, Winston, rebuilding railways is a no-brainer. It's important. Last year, the Auckland electric network was extended to Pukekohe, and the third main line was built at the busiest junction of the whole network. These are just two of the projects we started in 2020. Others talked about it, but we did it. And I mentioned the two ferries, so I won't mention that again because we've got to move on. We'll spend no more than $1.7 billion on the ferries and port infrastructure. That is $2.3 billion less than the Labor project had got to. I want to make sure you understand this as well. Our thanks go to the Inter-Islanders crew for their dedication, because over the Christmas, it was the other freight company that failed, but over Christmas, they had a staggering success rate of that period at 100% reliability. When did you ever hear us anywhere in railways and the ferries getting that sort of performance? But that was their performance over Christmas, and I salute them. We need them to do that. They moved 52,000 passengers and 17,000 vehicles. And what's more, we're proud of the engineering heritage that goes behind that too. And by the way, we've saved the Matara railway station. It's a long way from Wellington, I know, in the deep south, but it's an icon that needed to be saved with a little bit of money and a bit of inspiration and an understanding that long term it'll be great for the Southland economy as well. Now, on foreign affairs, well, we've repeatedly said over the last 2 years that we are in the most difficult, complex, challenging times of the last 80 years. And being careful matters. I know there are those out there who want to protest and shout and scream and virtue signal and say things. And at the end of the day, the next question is, so how will they change anything or advance anybody's cause anywhere in the world? And the answer is they have not. So we have been very careful. Of course, we believe in multilateralism. Of course, we believe in the rule of law. But I want to remind some people who have been spouting on about the rule of law that for the rule of the law to operate properly and to be of any sense and value to the world historically and today, then it has to be enforced. Exactly. That's axiomatic. Don't people understand that? So if you want to defend a terrorist called Maduro from Venezuela, an economy that was the number one in South America now been run broke by a terrorist who had on his head 15 million placed by Joe Biden when he was the President of the United States, and in the closing 2 weeks before he left, he put another 10 million on top of his head, so it was 25 million. When Joe Biden did that, none of these people said a word, not a mutter, not a murmur, not a syllable, not a sound, until somebody else did it. You see their kind of politics? Their politics is hypocritical and extreme. It's not consistent. Would I support Maduro not having that not happening to him? Of course not. He is a terrorist and appalling for his own people. And so, in the end, our job as a country way out here in the South Pacific, just north of the Penguins, but one of only 9 democracies since 1854, with a proud record, is to watch ourselves, be careful, and ensure every decision, everything we do, and everything we say advances the collective interests of the New Zealand people. And in doing so, the collective interests of our front yard, almost 1/3 of the Pacific, the blue continent, our Pacific neighbours. And we're out there, ladies and gentlemen, going as hard as we possibly can. We've been to every Pacific Islands Forum country now. And it hasn't been easy. We're only one short, and we've been to all of ASEAN. I've only got Brunei to go. But our point is that New Zealand was always a country that's destiny relied upon our success internationally as a trading nation. And we're doing our best in foreign affairs to back other ministers to advance this country's cause. But back to the point about today's debate. That was staggering. There have been times that Mr. Brownlee, I can't bring the Speaker into this, but I know he will understand what I'm saying. There are some times when the opposition rises in the House and you think, actually, I don't like our chances come the next election. Well, this wasn't one of those occasions. I thought our chances just went that way after that performance, because that's the best they can do. I can see why some of them are retiring, and a lot more are going to retire before the next election. Now, if I can speak to them about a future job in the future, and that might help with their retirement, then feel free to give me a call. We've got lots of jobs we still might need people with experience to have, but nothing's more miserable in this game than to come into Parliament knowing that if you've got this leadership, the team, the management and the plan, that you can win, and have to say to yourselves, I'll be going all the way till the 7th of November 2026, and the day after, things will look all the same. Alas and alack, that's what we're facing if you're in the opposition. But over this side of the House, our job is to recognise that we're the only group of parties that can do better for this country, and get on and do that.